Yo, what up? It's your boy Rob coming back at you once again with another video. So you already know what to do. Make sure that you smash the like button on this video and also make sure that you hit the bell icon twice if you are not subscribed to the channel. Let's talk about this idiot Joe Biden and this nonsense, this nonsensical lie that he has put out, that has actually been put out since before the beginning of his presidency, about the quote interest, right? There's no interest in reparations. The government is not going to pay reparations. These people that live here in the United States literally don't think they were doing anything wrong to begin with. You have to remember that the population at large, the main belief that most of them have is that they were actually doing the world a favor by slavery. So with that mind state, you can never expect them to even see that anything was done wrong, which again, they don't. So the reason why this is being done is to create a divide. All right. They're trying to create a divide, and they're trying to further build on a lot of the divide that happened when President Trump was the president. This has nothing to do with reparations. If you watch any of my videos before, what I told you that the Democrats will do is they will always support a study to make it look like they care, and then they will sensationalize what it is that they're doing. Every information that they get from the study, they'll do something for every other group other than black people, while the population at large takes out their anger and rage on black people. That's literally what this is. And there's another article that I'm actually going to be doing where you will see this in play. But let's check out this article from Russia Today. It says Biden signals the green light for reparations study. Now, here's the thing. You need to go follow TD Hip Hop Media. All right. TD Hip Hop Media has done numerous, very thorough and in-depth videos talking about this. Joe Biden actually said from his own mouth that he would not support reparations unless Native Americans were involved. Slavery reparations, despite the fact that Native Americans, Indigenous Americans, whatever you want to call them, actually owned slaves, and part of their treaty terms were to hunt down and sequester slaves. All right. So this says Biden signals green light for reparations study as Congress press bill to examine slavery and discrimination from 1619. What is there to study? You know what I'm saying? The Congress actually has the laws, like Congress actually passed the laws, you know what I'm saying, that created the discrimination and the laws that supposedly helped to break it up. They didn't have to do any kind of study to do any of the legislation that they did for LGBTQ. But for some reason, despite the fact that slavery and discrimination is literally written into American history, and in every history and government class, we learn the same shit in the public school system, for some reason, these people who work inside of the buildings who wrote the discrimination laws need to do a study on it. This is the level of denial. This is what I'm saying, man. Like, all of this stuff is futile. Why do you continue to keep trying to negotiate and bargain and plead your case to people who don't even understand the words that you are speaking in the language that they created? Why? Why do this? This is like begging at this point. Get your degrees in information systems. Get your coding knowledge 100% intact. You need to become the, undisputed champions and knowledge base of the future of AI and computer information technology, and market your skills elsewhere, not in the United States. And if the United States wants to hire you, then you make them pay premium. That's how you deal with this. Reparations is a nice thought, but you're not going to get that from people who literally thought that they were doing the world a favor by exterminating and enslaving you. It's not going to happen. Sorry. You know what I'm saying? So now, this says the White House has confirmed President Joe Biden's support for studying reparations. So you'd assume Joe Biden, somebody who I believe has a Juris Doctorate degree, would have done plenty of studying about reparations and slavery and all of that stuff during his academic career, just like everyone who is in the government. But apparently not. Apparently more studies need to be done. Hopefully you don't study from here, because then there will be no case, because it wasn't slavery, it was immigration. You know what I'm saying? This is what they're doing. You know what I mean? It's just unreal. So here it says Biden would certainly support a study of reparations and the continuing impacts of slavery. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki told reporters at a briefing on Wednesday. And the only impact of slavery that they're concerned about is the impact that the absence of slavery is having on the American economy. That's the only terms of slavery that they're concerned about, is how the absence of slavery is damaging the United States. That's literally the only thing that they're capable of assessing. This is what you need to understand. This is what we are dealing with. You know what I mean? So now here it says he continues to demonstrate his commitment to taking comprehensive action to address the systemic racism that persists today. By doing what? Telling the civil rights leaders to shut the hell up. You ain't getting shit. Latinos are the boss now. You know what I'm saying? Like, is that how he addressed systemic racism? And the reparation study is one part of that across government approach. No, it's not. And here's the thing that's so funny. White people are literally outraged because of a study that's going to lead nowhere. White people know that the government is not going to do shit. But the fact that Joe Biden is simply putting this carrot in front of the donkey's mouth, they're still outraged, knowing that nothing is going to happen. It's amazing. It's truly amazing. It further validates my point that it is getting to the point of where the communication blockade between reality and these people and the population at large is so large that it is time to go, because it's getting to an unsafe level. You're going to start having honor killings, and they're going to be justified, and people are going to get off on them because they literally are saying that they're doing the world a favor, and it'll just be okay. Black people, we need to do something, like get out quickly. You know what I'm saying? This Joe Biden shit is basically some get out coffee cup nonsense, and I hope a bunch of people don't fall for it, because nothing is gonna come of it. Nothing is coming of this. You know what I'm saying? It says he continues to demonstrate his commitment to taking comprehensive action to address the systemic racism that persists today. Joe Biden feels that there's not enough systemic racism today. The only type of persistence about systemic racism that anybody cares about today is the fact that there's not enough providing a large enough advantage. That is what the concern is. You have to remember that this guy who is so concerned about systemic racism is literally one of the people who wrote most of the systemic laws for criminal justice reform in the 80s. Other racists will point that out to you to try to get you to support their causes. You know what I'm saying? Don't forget that. So now, here it says, Jen Psaki, President Biden would certainly support a study of reparations. We understand that we don't need a study to take action right now on systemic racism. See, there we go. So he wants to take actions within his own government in the meantime. What does that even mean? You know what I mean? Let's read this again. Certainly, Joe Biden would certainly support a study of reparations. We understand that we don't need a study to take action right now on systemic racism, but you're going to do one anyway. You're going to do one anyway to stall because you truly don't give a shit. You know what I'm saying? That's all that means. So he wants to take actions within his own government in the meantime. This dude is an idiot.
Well, he's supported a study of...
And so is this woman. Man, this woman is an idiot. She is one of the dumbest people that I've ever seen. I think they actually call her Raggedy Ann. Man, you should have seen them grilling her about Julian Assange and grilling her about when Snowden was in Russia. Man, she didn't answer a damn question. She is a complete and utter moron. She is exactly who Joe Biden should have as his press secretary, for real, because she is the female equivalent of his idiocy behind the damn podium. You know what I'm saying?
Reparations, which I believe is what's being discussed, and studying the continuing impacts of slavery, which is being discussed in this hearing on HR 40, I believe it is. And he can.
The problem is that the people who discuss these issues are the descendants of the people who owned the slaves. So they're never going to see it as if they did anything wrong. I don't understand why people even give this shit any credence, because that's all it is shit.
Continues to demonstrate his commitment to take comprehensive action to address the systemic racism that persists today.
Their idea of systemic racism is not using the correct gender pronoun. That's what their idea of systemic racism is. Their idea of systemic racism is the fact that President Trump called COVID-19 China virus. That's their idea of systemic racism. This is a conversation that the government is not willing to entertain. This is a conversation that the people in the government are clearly not qualified to have. And it's a conversation that the people in the government will never be willing to listen to. So what is the point? I don't understand all of the wasted energy. I don't understand the theatrics. I don't understand any of it.
Obviously, that is having that study is a part of that. But he has signed an executive order on his first day, which would begin to deliver on his commitment to having an across government approach to addressing racial inequality and making sure equity is a part of his entire policy agenda.
This woman, they should call her the verbal compass, because she draws a perfect circle with her words every time she talks. This woman talks in circles. Check out when that guy was grilling her about Edward Snowden in Russia and Russia not delivering Snowden to the United States. Man, this guy, she got grilled by whoever that counsel was, and she didn't answer a damn question at all. And that's literally what they do about everything. They give out a bunch of word salad, a bunch of nonsense, a bunch of jargon, and a bunch of dog whistles, and then everybody just sits there and waits as if expecting something for whatever reason. When somebody literally just sits there and says nothing when asked a question, they just say a bunch of words. Why would you expect anything to come from that? But people literally continue to try to communicate with this government that has no intention to do anything other than kill you and use you for a human resource. And they still just try to communicate as if they're listening, as if they even give a shit, as if they can even hear you. You know what I mean? There's no point in this shit. This is literally ridicule, in my opinion.
But he certainly would support a study of reparations. We understands that we don't need a study to take action right now in systemic racism, so he wants to take actions within his own government in the meantime.
Would he support the bill? Because you're talking about the study, but if the bill came to his desk, would he sign it?
Who cares about a study? Listen, they didn't even do a damn study to get the COVID-19 vaccines out. This is some shit that's verified and doesn't require, samples. All it requires is just looking at tables of income. All it requires is looking at things that happened over a period of time. Very simple stuff. You don't have to do trial vaccines. You don't have to use animals. You don't have to extract DNA. They literally did Operation Warp Speed and got an adequate vaccine for COVID-19, which is on a regular basis would be like a 10-year project. But to do a history study, they can't get that accomplished.
Well, it's working its way through Congress. He'd certainly support a study, but we'll see what happens through the
It's working its way through Congress like diarrhea through an intestinal tract.
Legislative process.
Just last question on that. The president has signed quite a few executive actions. Why not on this issue create a commission and by executive order?
He actually signed a number of actions on racial equity.
Yeah, he actually signed a bunch of executive orders on racial equity, none of which involve black people. See how she did that? And black people just sitting there like, oh, let me just bow. Let me just bow. These people are amazing. Look what they did. Look what they did. They laugh. Look at the smile. She's laughing.
On his first day or his first couple of days in office, because he felt it was essential to send the message to the American people and the
What? Executive order regarding anything about this particular topic regarding slavery, racism, black people, and reparations did Joe Biden sign, Raggedy Ann?
world, that having an across government approach, ensuring that equity is a central part of his policy agenda, was, not just a singular issue, but something that would be a part of every policy issue.
Every. Despite the fact that, they don't think that every race should be slaves. The fact that they don't think that every race should be exterminated. Anytime anything has to deal with black people specifically, it should be extended to everybody. No identity. You know what I'm saying?
Issue he approaches, whether it's healthcare, whether it's economic inequality, a range of issues. That's his approach and how he's trying to, address the root causes of racism in our country today.
But he doesn't support the reparations.
If he's so worried about racism, he should give his son the same sentence that he gave black people for smoking crack, because there's evidence that his kid smokes crack, and his kid is still out free. Didn't do a lick of jail time. And there's pictures of him sucking a glass dick.
Executive order. He won't sign it.
Again, it would be up to him. He has executive order authority. He would certainly support a study, and we'll see where Congress.
Absolutely, he'd support a study. A study costs no money. So now here it says the statement came as a House subcommittee debated a bill that would fund a study of slavery and discrimination in the colonies and the U.S. from 1619 to the present and recommend appropriate remedies. Nothing is going to come of that. I will be willing to put money on it. The study probably won't even get completed, including possible reparations to black people. Yeah. Also, if you go to the store and buy a lottery ticket, there's a possible chance that you could win the jackpot. Miss me with this bullshit. Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, Democrat, Texas, a member of the Congressional Black Caucus, which is a complete joke, and none of those people were selected by black people, reintroduced the bill in January. The latest progress in the push for reparations marks a shift in the Democratic Party after such leaders as former President Barack Obama, 2016 presidential nominee Hillary Clinton, and Senator Bernie Sanders declined to endorse such a program. Yep, facts. But these are your friends. And better hurry up with this shit, because once they eliminate and erase slavery from the history books like they're doing, then guess what? You ain't getting a damn thing, just like Joe Biden said in the beginning. You know what I'm saying? But with identity politics becoming even more of a driving force in the Democratic campaign strategy, reparations has become a serious issue in the party's primary elections. Well, both Kamala Harris and Joe Biden already said that they don't support reparations. So I don't even understand why the Black Congressional Caucus wasted their time with this to try to provide the illusion that they're actually doing something for black people while they're bankrolling millions of dollars for their families and not doing shit. You know what I'm saying? Biden wouldn't comment on the campaign trail to funding reparations. See? Absolutely. Of course he's not. He never will. He's on code with the Republicans and the Democrats, which you have to understand what the purpose of the Republicans and the Democrats are for. Despite the fact that alt-right people like to continue to repeat the talking points that Democrats do everything for black people, when Democrats actually are the worst for black people. You know what I'm saying? They all work together. But he did signal support for studying the idea. Of course, they will always support a study, and whatever he can get that's anti-black out of that study is what he will utilize. Like he already said that he was not going to provide any kind of reparation unless American Indians, Native Americans, or indigenous people were involved in the legislation. But he did signal support for studying the idea. He told the Washington Post that there can be no realization of the American dream without grappling the original sin of slavery. Well, actually, the problem is that they don't look at it that way. That's just literally a statement that he's saying, and he's not being intellectually honest because he doesn't have the capacity to see that anything was done wrong. When he's been asked about this, clearly there are numerous clips of him not even being able to have any kind of acknowledgement that anything happened. It's almost like he literally short circuits when asked about this, just like a lot of people do. So this is all foolery, glamour and glitz that's going to end in zero. You know what I'm saying? With Democrats also controlling the House and Senate, the study may finally have a chance to go forward after being proposed for decades. It's not going to go forward. I don't understand why people think that being majority Democrat is going to do anything. The establishment Democrats and the establishment Republicans are on code. Mitch McConnell and Barack Obama are on code that reparations should never happen. It's only a mainstream media and public at large narrative that one of the parties favors black people more or less. The reality of the situation is that both parties are on code and work for the suppression of black people, which there's, again, my original premise of there's no reason for blacks to participate in any of this shit. You know what I'm saying? The political push is so intense that CNN reported Tuesday on a Harvard Medical School study asserting that reparations could have reduced COVID-19 deaths among blacks. Well, I mean, reparations, none of this is new. We all know this. It all goes back to economic disparities. But the problem is that the population at large doesn't acknowledge that. You literally have black people who are millionaires who advocate for reparations. And these black people who are millionaires have more money than the poor white people that sit there and call them lazy and want a handout. But these people are millionaires. Ice Cube is literally a millionaire. He has more money than 5 generations of the poorest white person. But those poor white people will literally say that Ice Cube wants a handout when he has more money than the worth of their entire existence here in the United States. You see how the hypocrisy is? It just doesn't make any sense. It's about doing what's right. But as we know, and as I showed in that example yesterday of how the United States likes to project onto others, how they project onto China. Oh my goodness, these people are trying to create a super race. America's been trying to do that for years. It's literally on record. Like I said, True News did a report about the super soldiers that the United States deposited and left in Syria. And the Syrian UN Security Council had to petition to the UN to have the United States remove them. But when we're talking about China doing it, it's, oh my God, look what you people are doing. When we're doing the same thing and have already done it. And as a matter of fact, we left the remnants of it on somebody's shore. Get the fuck out of here with this hypocrisy shit, man. You know what I'm saying? So now here it says, but even if the study bill is passed and signed by Biden, the reparations movement may be a long way from making slavery compensation payments a reality. That's not gonna happen ever. Stop waiting for it. They're trying to eliminate slavery as a fact. We live in the post-truth era where people's emotional attachments and talking points are more validating than actual facts. United States gets real emotional when they talk about slavery or when anything is talked about the Native Americans. So now they call in slaves and indigenous Americans immigrants because we just gonna, I'm white and I say so history. They immigrated here. No, the fuck we didn't. You know what I'm saying? None of us did. None of the people who had crimes committed against them in this country immigrated here. Even if they want to talk about Mexicans and if they want to talk about Latinos, those people were already here. We all were already here. Stop calling us immigrants. Damn. Y'all just gonna make somebody immigrants. You're gonna make everybody a damn immigrant except for the motherfuckers that are not indigenous to here. You know what I'm saying? Shit. Even Joe Biden said that shit. Joe Biden literally said that. The United States is a country of immigrants. No, it's not. There's an entire population of people that was already here in North and South America. It is not a nation of immigrants. Y'all just trying to make everybody immigrants. Y'all are the immigrants. Y'all crossed overseas to get here. And y'all took people with you. We're not immigrants. To be honest, the only people of color that actually are immigrants in the United States are Asians. Like, nobody else is immigrants. South Americans, Latinos, blacks, all of us have been here. The people that y'all call immigrants are not fucking immigrants. Y'all are the immigrants. The fuck? Y'all just turn everything into a damn Disney story and shit, like Pocahontas. You know what I mean? Like, you know, Aztec pyramids and Mayan pyramids. That shit was, it wasn't the people that were here first. They didn't make that shit. The Olmec empires, they didn't make none of that. Aliens came down and made that shit, right? Like, when it comes to people already being in a certain place, these people literally do not acknowledge aliens until it comes to that. Everywhere where y'all went, there was already people there. Even in New Zealand and Australia, India, there was already people there. Hong Kong. And y'all call everybody else immigrants. No, man, that's not true. It's not historically true. South Africa. Everybody's an immigrant. No, everybody's not an immigrant. There's literally like only one group of people that's an actual immigrant. And it's the ones that call everybody else immigrants. Among other issues, the government would have to decide whether payments would all go to Black Americans, all blacks in America, or only descendants of slavery. Why would it go to all Black Americans? Why would it go to all blacks and Americans? Why would it not just specifically go to descendants of slavery if the shit is about slaves? What the fuck do all blacks have to? This is the dumb shit. And see, now you see what they're doing. They're literally doing this right here to try to cause divide within black people. If you're not a descendant of slavery, how would you be compensated for slavery? What you should be compensated for if you're not a descendant of slavery is the discrimination. Because black people, all black people face discrimination, but all black people aren't descendants of slaves. Y'all the population at large created this mess and then turned around and weaponized the mess and the remedies for the mess to make black people infight even more. And you see this shit happening. People got to wake up and see this shit, man. If you're not a descendant of slavery, then the criticism is the same as Joe Biden saying that he won't have a conversation about reparations unless indigenous Americans are mentioned in the conversation. It's literally the same thing. If you lived in Jamaica and you came to the United States post-slavery, why would you get reparations for slavery? But you literally, they put this out here so that white people who don't care about these kind of things and only want to use them as talking points will literally sit there and say, well, you know, I don't know why some Africans should get reparations. Well, we don't either. Nobody's ever said that. Congress would also need to define who is considered black. See, and then now, so we got Rachel Dolezal who would be getting reparations because she's transracial and she considers herself black, and you got to use the proper pronouns. And then actually what it would be is you would have a whole bunch of mixed people, and then what they will do, mark my words, what they will do is only black people who can trace their ancestry back to European slave owners, which will basically be like DNA test mixed people, you know what I'm saying? People with DNA that they can trace back to a British or Spanish slave owner family would be able to get slave reparations. So despite the facts that the majority of darker skinned black people who are actually doing the field work and getting abused the most, because lighter skinned black people have that European DNA, the way that the government would fix it would be to make it so that you can only get traced back by that European DNA, and they would do that shit specifically to create more divide in black people and also to give the resources to the lighter black people, because as we all know, the United States practices colorism. So if they do anything for black people, they're not going to do it for black people who are, you know, fully melanated. They're going to do it for the people that the United States created, which is the lighter skinned black people. It's just the reality of shit. You know what I'm saying? And that shit is fucked up. Then there would be a question of how to pay reparations. None of this shit is rocket science. It's just like the old Rally's commercial. Cha-ching. Open the cash register and pay out. Then there would be a question of how to pay for the reparations, which would essentially mean penalizing non-black taxpayers for the color of their skin. How? They literally act like black people won't be paying this tax either. I pay taxes, which means that whatever taxes I paid would go to the reparations fund. Black people would be paying for their own reparations too. So this is bullshit as well. And they don't even have to use taxes. We got all of these issues going on with China. Any trade tariff that they get a surplus of money from in the economy, they could use that money and fund reparations if they wanted to. They could use all of that money that they get from Mexican cartels for the drug sales and the black ops that they put into DARPA. They could do all of that if they wanted to. But now we're just going to sit there and act like, you know, our inherently high IQs that we have just suddenly failed when it comes to math and how to distribute payments and how to create income flows. Are you serious? Get the fuck out of here. More bullshit. More shit used to create divide. This is all this is. Or perhaps reparations would need to go further. Writer Tiffany Elliott argued that reparations represent a necessary repentance for our national sin. And see, the only reason why they're phrasing it like this is, again, to get white people upset. All of this, anytime they do stuff like this, it's not for black people, man. They're not doing this shit for you. They're literally doing this to enhance anti-black sentiment. That is what they're doing, because there is no intention of paying reparations, and we're never going to get reparations. They know this, but they entertain this to make it look like they're doing something for black people while getting the emotions of white people increased. That's all this is. And I'll prove this to you in this article. And should be extended to all undesirables, including, see, there we go. Or perhaps reparations would need to go further. Writer Tiffany Elliott argued reparations represent a necessary repentance for our national sin and should be extended to all undesirables. How? Why should they be extended to all undesirables? Women were not slaves. Homosexuals. I don't know if it was any black homosexuals, but I know that there was white homosexuals that owned slaves. Transgender people wasn't even around back then, so why the fuck would they get anything? And HIV victims, HIV wasn't even around back then. This is the shit that I'm talking about. Writer Tiffany Elliott. And of course, it's a white woman that says this shit. Why in the fuck would any of these people, what the fuck would any of these people get reparations for? Now, the thing that's funny is that white people are literally outraged when it comes to simply even just the discussion of reparations. White people think that any black person that even mentions the word reparations should get canceled and killed. Look at what they did to Martin Luther King, because again, his speech was called a canceled check and they canceled his ass. You know what I'm saying? So this white lady says that reparations should be given to all of these people. For what? Homosexuals and transgenders actually already got reparations in 2015 when they did the legislation to make homosexual/transgender marriage legal. And they back paid them 3 years of taxes. And then Elizabeth Warren tried to advocate for them to get even more back payment in taxes. They based that legislation on legislation that made interracial marriage allowed, and no interracial couple that got married got a dime in back taxes. No interracial couple got a dime, but all of these LGBTQ couples got back tax payment. And the people that the legislation that set the precedent for didn't even get any back payments. This is the bullshit. This is why you don't need to have people like Tiffany Elliott advocating for your issues. But Tiffany Elliott, this white lady, is the black voice, and then she's sitting up here saying that none of these people that she listed are black. She didn't list anything about black. Why should all of these people who didn't suffer from slavery be repaired for slavery? That's like, I've never eaten an Impossible Burger. I've never used liquid Roundup. But I should be able to get money from the Monsanto lawsuit because I'm an undesirable? What? How does that work? It only works when it comes to dealing with anything with black people. By this logic, by her logic, those white people and those Latinos in Oregon who sued the black businesses to stop them from getting the COVID-19 funds, by her logic, they were justified in doing that. So you're not an anti-racism advocate. You know what I'm saying? Like, nothing that you're doing makes sense, which is why these kind of people need to step out of our issues. This is dumb. This is dumb Democrat liberal nonsense. Stupid ass shit. This is some Margaret Sanger ass shit right here. You know what I'm saying? So now here it says, of course, pushback can be expected from those white males and other conservatives. This is insane for people to have to pay for other people's horrific mistakes that we had nothing to do with, said conservative commenter Chastity Gwynn. Yeah, and it's also insane for us to have to deal with the fact that our ancestors were enslaved as well, and that we still have to deal with it. The fact that they weren't allowed to own land and build wealth, and we have zero generational wealth, and every single economic center and cultural center that we ever built in this country was burned down by white people. It's fucked up that we have to deal with the with the repercussions of that as well. It's just as fucked up. And what's even more fucked up, that you guys clearly have a racist agenda on using this as a talking point, is because actual black people pay the same fucking taxes as you. So it will literally be black people paying for their own reparations as well, along with the rest of the country. The fuck? But you don't mention that because you don't truly care about it from a racial standpoint. You only care about it for the fact that it looks like it's white submission. That is the only reason that they have a say in this shit. You know what I'm saying? The White House is supporting looking into slavery reparations. This is insane for people to have to pay for other people's horrific mistakes that we had nothing to do with. I'm sorry, but come on. White House says would support a study of slavery reparations, but you didn't have that energy. You didn't have that energy when the United States paid the $20,000 in reparations for the United States imprisoning Chinese people and Asians during World War II. You didn't have that energy for that. And guess who didn't have nothing to do with none of that? Black people. Because black people have never ran the government and have never been an influential part. But we had to pay taxes to pay those Japanese people their reparations. Guess what? When Obama decided to give Jewish people $12 million during his presidency, guess who had nothing to do with the fucking Holocaust? Black people. We had to pay taxes for it. You had no problem paying taxes and doing that shit. But anything, this is what I'm talking about the inherent embedded racism and inability or purposely not seeing anything objectively. I can easily counter your argument. I paid taxes to support Barack Obama's funding of reparation, or I'm sorry, of repair to Holocaust survivors. I paid taxes to provide money that the government used to give to Native Americans when Obama gave them $936 million. I didn't have anything to do with the takeover of America and the slaughtering of Indians. I had nothing to do with that. But I had to pay taxes. I had nothing to do with World War II. I'm not German. Matter of fact, there was a lot of black people who actually fought in that war. That's the same nonsense white people say about the Civil War. I still paid taxes. When it comes to something for black people, there's a huge problem with it. Some people need to step back and look at that shit. Other observers said support for reparations or even studying reparations is contrary to Biden's message of uniting the country. Exactly. So even if you don't pay, simply studying reparations is contrary for Biden's message of uniting the country. Well, y'all united the country when y'all brought us over here and used us for free labor. You know what I'm saying? And so let me guess, erasing the history. So this right here is dividing the country. Just looking at reparations is dividing the country. But tearing down the statue is uniting the country. Like, none of these people make any sense. This is why, what is the point of even having any communication with any of these people? What's the point? This is why when I do content, I only do content for my people that listen. You know what I mean? For my like-minded people. I'm not here to justify anything to anybody else, because when you're dealing with people that don't see you as a human being, there's no point in having a discussion with them. That's like looking through the window at a zoo trying to talk to an animal. They don't understand. Why bother? Not that I have any disrespect for them, not that I think that they should die, but they clearly have no fucking clue what you're talking about. So why communicate? The only thing that you should ever do is defend yourself when those kind of people try to, you know what I'm saying, push the limits. Many observers suggested that merely supporting a study wouldn't lead to any real action. It's not gonna lead to any real action. The only action that it's gonna lead to is possibly another capital insurrection. And Paskey's statement was an artful way to say no without using that word. And that's exactly what it was. And even though she said no, good old boy Texas Red is still outraged. I thought Biden was a uniter and not a divider. Barr was out wrong. The Dems are extremely good at taking half an hour to say no without using that word. Facts. Facts. Joe, you only won because you're not Donald Trump, period, one commenter said. Facts. Try this stuff and you'll lose your House and Senate majorities as independents and libertarians. Hit the polls hard and stop the idiocy. So what that basically says is that the United States is forever anti-black. That's the takeaway. That's what you need to understand from this. None of these people are your friends. You will never get anything from the government. Stop trying. Start trying to figure out other things. Take over artificial intelligence. Do what is necessary to create a monopoly in artificial intelligence and computer programming. Close the market, raise the price, and raise the price in a brutal fashion. That's the only thing that can be done. All right. So, with that being said, that is the end of this video. Don't drink the Kool-Aid. Don't stare at the spoon as it's circling the cup of coffee. You know what I'm saying? And give Joe Biden a big middle finger. And I will catch you guys on the next video. Peace.